Hello, everybody, and welcome back to our conversation about living with GBS. And of course, I'm here with my best friend Carla over in Florida. How are you, Carla?
I am fantabulous.
Well, good. It is wonderful over here in Lisbon, Portugal. It's a beautiful day. And only screwed up Portuguese once or twice today. So far, so good. This is going to be a really fun conversation. Not that our last conversation wasn't fun, but because we are bringing on somebody who was nice enough to not only help you through a lot of your own journey during all of this craziness, but a good friend of both of ours. Denise is with us today. How are you, Denise?
Great. How are y'all?
We are good. You look fantastic. You look all moisturized and ready to chat.
Hey, I did a math last night and conditioned my hair, getting ready for today.
Welcome to the program, Rainbow Bright.
Happy to be here.
Before we dive into Carla's GBS and all of that stuff, tell me a little bit briefly about how you're connected to Carla. Of course, I met you through Carla. How
Mhm.
long have you two known each other? What's the quick version of your story?
Carla, what has it been? Close to 20 years?
Um,
Over
20,
15.
yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah.
right on the money. I think we're right at 15, about to hit in this Thanksgiving, we'll hit 16, I believe.
Okay.
Yep. A bar. Um, isn't that funny? We were painting Christmas ornaments or something like that
It was
a
a
month
Christmas ornament decorating competition, and not to brag, but I did win. Just saying.
ago.
Yeah.
And Carla knew that we were going to be lifelong friends when we're walking down the street. And I'm like, so are you going to try to flip me to the dark side?
I believe that's the rainbow side. Is that what we were talking about?
That is.
And whether or not she achieved that will be a mystery for the ages because I've never figured that out. I've known both of you a very long time. So, I,
I know. I
I,
know.
I have my thoughts, but it does not matter. I know. Makes it exciting. Well, either way, congratulations on coming to the rainbow side or not, whatever. Um,
Speak English.
I met Denise, I remember it very, very clearly, the day we went to some kind of wildlife preserve in
The
Tampa,
monkeys,
the monkeys.
the ape
Uh,
preserve
Yes.
sanctuary.
And I
I
think you
remember
showed
this.
up, Denise, in some kind of fake fur stole thing, and it was like
Yes,
200
I
degrees
had on fake
outside.
fur. Yeah. Well, the reason I wore the fake fur was because I didn't want the monkeys to throw poop at me. So I wanted to be like the monkeys and think that, I was part of their tribe so they wouldn't give me herpes because it is a real thing that monkeys can give you herpes.
And did it work? Did you get any poo thrown at you?
Yeah, they loved me. They loved me. They did not throw poop at me.
I think that's the show right there. I think we could just stop.
Right? Hysterical, I tell you.
Well,
The
so
stuff
obviously
she came
the
up
three
with.
of us have some great chemistry. We've known each other for a very long time. I met you through Carla from that day, and we've been friends ever since.
Right.
But of course, we want to talk about the help that you were able to give Carla, and just the friendship that you gave Carla when she first started feeling off. We talked about this during our last conversation, Carla, about how your heart was racing, you were ready to jump out of your skin. You told the story about Denise taking you to the ER and how that went. So, Denise, I'm interested from your perspective when Carla started sharing these feelings and thoughts and fears with you, as she did with me too. What was your take and how did you react to all of this?
It was actually pretty damn scary. I didn't know what to do to help her, and I didn't know where to go to get the help, if that makes sense. It was presenting almost like a panic attack, but she kept saying, I'm not having a panic attack. But she could not stand being in her own skin. So it was actually very frightening witnessing all that.
It was, and I know it's again from our perspective being outside of that skin, trying to
Mhm.
understand what she was feeling was a challenge for me too, because I'm like, I kind of get it, but obviously I don't get it. Did you feel the same way?
Yeah. Yeah. I've suffered from panic attacks, so I know what that feels like. But she's like, it's different, like I stayed at the house with her for, oh gosh, what was it, Carl, about 4 days or so before we went to the hospital. And she was just, you could just see her going down. And like, it was, I guess, just terrifying. That's the only words I know what to say. Trying to relive this is actually kind of frightening in itself.
Yeah. And to put it in context, because I'm a life coach, I help people with panic attacks. I don't have panic attacks. When I was younger, I did. But I got that all taken care of, and I learned how to circumvent panic attacks. So I know all kinds of tricks and techniques. And the one thing about panic attacks is they will eventually slope down. Mm-hmm. They don't stay heightened forever. I don't care how bad a panic attack it is. Honestly, like a 2-hour one is excessive, right? This never, ever, ever stopped. Ever.
How frustrating was it for you, Carla, to try to explain what you were feeling to us? I mean, because that had to be hard for you because you were trying to say it's a panic attack, but it's not a panic attack. Did that compound it at all?
No, because the two of you were really the only people I was explaining it to, because you all were taking turns kind of being there with me after the initial emergency visit. But you guys are both so empathetic and you just care about me. So I could feel that caring and concern, and we want to help you. And there was no judgment in that whatsoever. Where it got hard for me explaining the panic attack, and Denise will attest to this, was our first emergency room visit. Urgent care was excellent. Those women over there knew I wasn't having a panic attack. They knew it. But when we wound up at the actual ER, they were just, it's a panic attack. You need to get psych meds. There's something wrong with you. That's how they started out. And then a lot of specialists after that emergency visit had the same thing. Like, it's a panic attack. See a psychiatrist. It's a panic attack. See a psychiatrist. Then when they started getting blood work back, that's when they were like, oh, we've never seen these numbers before. Stephen, you were in some of those meetings. Remember when the immunologist came in and she's like, I consulted with 7 of my colleagues and I'm on an immunology board across internationally and sent it to them, and nobody has seen these numbers. We don't have any idea what is happening. That's when you really start to panic, because how are they going to help you if they can't diagnose it? Because when I coach, it's all about you cannot fix what you do not acknowledge. So, and I'm a problem solver. So if we can't figure out the problem, how in the world do you fix it? And so that is scary in and of itself.
Totally
and you
agree.
got scared because you couldn't tell, we weren't getting any answers,
Right. And I think that that's what I'm sure, Denise, that's what you felt at the beginning of this too, is, I mean, and of course, Carla, you're right. We both care about you a lot. We were both kind of your advocates during all of this, especially Denise, by taking care of you, we'll say, in the hospital during that first visit and letting that doctor know that she needed, or that doctor needed to send somebody else in to help you. After that visit, and Denise was her lovely aggressive self that we appreciate her for, and you made it back home. Denise, that's when you stayed with her more, right? And then I kind of came in and kind of tag teamed with you. But
I think I had stayed with her 3 or 4 days prior to taking her to the emergency room.
Okay.
I think I'd gone home for a little bit and she called and said, I need to go to the emergency room. You've got to take me. So we went to urgent care first, is what we did.
And I'm not a doctor hospital person. I think that's the first time I felt panic from you, Denise, was when I made that call. I could hear it in your voice when you said, I'm coming to get you.
Yeah.
And your energy was different on the way to urgent care. And then
freaked out.
Yeah, and when they sent us to the emergency room, then you really freaked out. I'm like, this car is going to be airborne in a minute if she doesn't calm down. So you
You
can,
know,
you can tell them
I
about your
remember,
part.
I remember I cannot parallel park. Okay. That is one thing about me I have never been able to do. I had to parallel park my Beetle. It was a little bitty Beetle. You would think that would be easy. I could not get it in between two cars. I finally just stopped in the middle of the road, get Carla out, and get her into urgent care. I was just freaking out. I didn't know what to do.
Right.
Just completely freaked out. She's like, I can't park it. I can't park it. Just get out. Just go in. We're just going to go in. I'm going to leave it right here. I don't care what happens. I don't care if they tow it. I'm leaving it right here. I'm leaving it right here. And I'm like, which one of us is having a panic-like attack at the moment? I was having
That would have
trouble
been
with
me
my
at the
brain.
moment. I don't
But
know. It just, I was terrified before, but when she's like, something's got to be done, you've got to take me, it was like, it made everything real at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I know it was real before, but it was just, I just kind of like shut down. I was like, oh my God, I have to freak out before I can get past everything to get my bearings about me.
Right.
you
So
did
that was my
really
freak out.
great. You
Do
did
what?
really great when we got inside, though, talking to the PAs, the nurses, the doctor. You did really, really well inside until they said, listen, here's what's going to happen. You got to go to the ER and you got to go right now. We could call an ambulance, but we do not have time to wait. You must go now. And it's better if she drives you. And you're like, I'm getting the car. I'm getting the car. The car, then panic started all over again.
Well, the good thing is the car was not parked. It was out there waiting for you, so you were ready to go.
No, I had to go move it after I got her in. I
Okay.
moved it from the middle of the street.
Okay.
It was like halfway in the street, halfway in a parking place. It was not my best parking job, but I did move it. So I ran and got the car. And her blood pressure, I remember it was 180 is like stroke level, and she was above that. I think she was pushing 200, and they're like, you know, she's about to stroke out here. So I knew how serious that was.
Right.
So I go and get the car. And in the ride to the hospital, which was not that far, Carla's telling me, I can't handle you showing out. She's like, so just keep your mouth shut while we're there. Do not show out. And I'm like, okay. So she made me promise that I'd be on my best behavior.
Didn't work out.
I would say, how did that go?
Gave me the go ahead. You did give me the go ahead. That's when I unleashed.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something we talked about in our previous conversation was the importance of not only advocating for yourself, but having people with you who can advocate for you when you're not able to. And it sounds like that's exactly what Denise did for you, right, Carla?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was having trouble by the time they actually got me back and was examining me. When we arrived, like I said in the last episode, they were ready for us. The girls at urgent care did call because they took me right back and hooked all this stuff to me. And then they're like, oh, nope, you're not having a heart attack. In the waiting room you go. And then it was almost 14 hours before we got taken back into a room. And
Yeah.
so I'm walking around the hall. I'm trying to do deep breathing. I'm sitting amongst all these people, coughing and hacking because it was COVID time, and we had no idea what was wrong with me. And it was really, really difficult.
Wow.
My fear had dissipated at this point, and it was anger because they were not treating her. They weren't doing anything. They just had us in the waiting room. And every time someone would walk out, I'd look at Carla and she'd be like, don't say nothing. Because she wouldn't let me go yell at anyone to get her in the back. So I was on my good behavior, I think, for a while.
You did, and in your defense, the doctor was way out of line. When somebody is suffering as bad as I am, for a doctor to act that way, I personally, in my opinion, right at that moment, his license should have been jerked just right
Okay.
then. Like if you
First
don't
of
know
all,
how to treat people, you're in the wrong profession.
he was a PA. He was not a doctor. He was a PA. So
Well, he was a jogger before you got done because he went running down the hall with you chasing him screaming. Okay.
we're in the room, and his bedside manner was horrible. Oh my God. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. Basically told her, your blood pressure's high, you need to get on medication, and you should have been doing this a long time ago.
Yeah, basically because I'm overweight, there's no telling what it could be. So if I would have taken care of myself, I wouldn't be in this predicament.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Carla looked at me and she said, okay. As soon as she said okay, I said, get the fuck out of the room. I said, you are a dick. I do not want you anywhere around her. Get out. I looked at the nurse. I said, get him out of here. You need to stay. She like is freaking out. The doctor or the PA leaves. The nurse is like looking at me, and I said, I do not want him to step a foot in this room again. If he is so far as opens up the door, we're gonna have a problem. Are we on the same page? And she's like, yes. I said, go get me a real fucking doctor.
You
And
actually
that's
followed him part. You actually followed him part way into the hall,
I don't
screaming,
remember that. I
and
don't
then
remember that.
then you screamed, "I need a real doctor in here!" Stat. You used your medical terms. You yelled, "I need a doctor, real doctor in here!" Stat, and keep him clear of this room. And everybody came out of their rooms back there, and then you came back in and talked very nice to the nurse that was in the room. So, and
But
she was
something needed.
wonderful, and the doctor that came in was good. He just didn't know what to do for me.
No,
Remember when they gave
but
me the Benadryl?
I just needed someone to do something. I mean, start ordering tests, not dismiss you. Because I've been with you long enough to know you're not going to make up a story. And if you're telling me you're not having a panic attack, you're not having a panic attack. I need someone to believe that, you
And
know?
I explained that to him. I said, I am not having a panic attack. I help people with panic attacks. So it's not like I don't understand what a panic attack is. And I'm just saying I'm not having one. Like, I know I'm not having one.
He was so rude, though. He was just missing that. He was not even listening to any reasoning that you were given as to why you were not having a panic attack. It was just in his mind, there's nothing wrong with you. And
Yeah,
I wasn't having it.
and I think that, not defending anybody, doctors see a million people a night in those emergency rooms, and but they do tend to forget that every case is different. You had a horrible situation in the room next door, and now you're with this new patient. Leave that behind, and you got to start over. And that sounds like that is not what happened here. And I'm glad that eventually a better doctor came in and gave you, even though they couldn't figure out a diagnosis for you, at least to Denise's point, something was happening. They were talking to you, they were investigating, they were trying to figure out something. And I know that after the ER, you were released to go back home with Benadryl, which we talked about last time, caused you to want to jump out of your skin even worse. You checked, it wasn't an error, they just didn't know what else to do. So I'm interested because I wasn't there. What was the ride from the ER like back home? And what happened when you got back to Carla's house?
Well, number one, we were both exhausted because we'd been there so long. But it was devastating because, again, no answers as to why she was feeling this way. The medication that they were prescribing was the wrong medication. She was feeling worse, like you just said. I mean, we didn't know I had no clue what to do. I didn't know how to help her. And that's a very scary feeling when one of your friends needs you and you don't know what to do.
Yeah. It's a helpless feeling. And I remember you calling me, I think you called me from the hospital that night,
I think I
um,
did.
just to say, hey, this is happening. We don't know anything yet, and I'll let you know. And then I'm like, what do we know? And you're like, we still don't know anything. And I think it was maybe the next day that I came in and kind of like said, go home, rest. I'll stay here with Carla. I think that was the next day.
I
Carla,
believe
how
it was.
much of that do you remember? Because I know it was a long day. You were exhausted. I hardly saw you when I was at your house. I just kind of checked in your room and said, hey, I'm here. I'm going to go watch TV kind of a thing. What do you remember?
Yeah, I believe when they tried to counteract the Benadryl, they gave me some kind of sedative because I actually was a little better for, what do you think it was, Denise? 3 hours, 4 hours, maybe?
Yeah.
And I was able to sleep a couple hours of that. Now, keep in mind, we are on day 6 after my vaccine shot, and I have now in 6 days have only averaged 2 to 3 hours a night of sleep because it's again a constant panic attack. You can till your body just gives out. You can't sleep. So I was able to. I think I immediately slept when I got home because, and I was like, I think I'm a little better. Whatever they did, they made it worse, but whatever they did next made it better. Um, and I felt a little bit of relief till I woke up and it was exactly the same. The prescription we look at, and it's Benadryl. And I know I
Yeah.
can't take it. I'm calling them. They can't give another prescription because they're like,
They
listen,
have to see you.
they're like, the vaccine's just too new. We just don't know what to do for you. I got that about 2 dozen times along my journey before I collapsed and was in the hospital long term. But we just don't know. We don't know enough about it to know what to do for you.
Well, and it was such a weird time because there were three vaccines out there, and people were like, get the one you can get, and I know I got the Moderna one, you got the Johnson and Johnson one. Um, would I have had the same reaction to that one? Probably not, but who knows? To your point, there was a whole lot of unknown, and we want to trust the science. And I do trust the science overall. We talked about that too in our last conversation. Um, but everybody reacts to medications differently, which is terrifying. Like Benadryl, I take Benadryl for everything, everything.
Right. And they're telling me it could have been as simple as um, what the Benadryl did was it worked the opposite way. We found out later because what I was actually having was a hyperimmune response. So my immune system was attacking itself. So it was in hyperdrive alert, hence the feeling of panic. My body was in a panic. All my organs, my nervous system, my stomach, it was all in heightened alert, hence why about 4 weeks in, I all of a sudden couldn't eat anything. It got where I couldn't eat at all,
Right.
remember? And I got so weak, but we'll get into all those sections because there's 2 months of this before we actually wind up at the hospital with me paralyzed. So
Right.
it was.
Carla,
Mm-hmm.
you were having problems eating when I was there. When you ate, didn't it do something? Didn't you feel like something was happening to your body? Like,
Yeah, anything I would put in my body, even drinks of water, would cause me to be, it would increase the reaction, almost like it gave the immune system fuel to get more active again when I calmed it down to get more active again. But 3 or 4 weeks in, then it got to where like I was going to be sick, nauseous on top of all of that. And I really couldn't eat anything. Nothing was working.
yeah,
I
I
think,
remember when I was staying with you, you were having a problem eating then.
Mhm.
and when I came in, Denise, I remember us talking in the living room, and you were like, she can't eat, she can't drink. We don't know what's going on. I'm like, well, what do I do? And you're like, just check in on her and make sure she's breathing. Just let her know that you're here. And I think to kind of piggyback on what you said about your experience in the hospital or going to the hospital, excuse me, her requesting to go to the hospital, that's when it got really real for me too. Obviously, I didn't doubt her before that, but then suddenly, holy cow, here I am with my best friend and I got to make sure she's breathing. And then when I checked
Yeah.
on her, and mine and Carla's relationship, as you know, Denise, has always been about making each other laugh. Who can outdo each other? Who can say the more ridiculous thing? I don't remember what I tried to say to make her laugh, but when I got no response, I was like, "Oh, damn, this is
Yeah, you
this
knew
is
how
for
bad it
real."
was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I
Yeah.
think that's when we started our rotation schedule of babysitting to making sure she
Yeah.
was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, for the first time in my life, like I couldn't find any humor in it, and the reason was I had to use every brain cell, every ounce of energy that I had to focus mentally, emotionally, physically. And I was doing deep breathing all the time, as you guys saw, to keep my immune system from what felt like it was going to explode,
Right.
to keep it, manageable where I didn't, didn't feel like I was absolutely going to lose my mind. And then how long was it, Stephen, before we started the first doctor's appointments? Were we 2 weeks in? 3 weeks in
I think it was
before
only,
we started the doctors. I think we went to my primary first, and
You
he
know,
said, eat
I
the
was making
plant
a
diet, whatever that's
I'm,
called.
I'm sorry. I remember making appointments and I had forgot about that. I was trying to set up appointments that took your insurance while you were in bed after the hospital.
Yeah, I
And I
think we
think
saw my
Steve
primary
helped.
care first, if I remember correctly. And he put me on what is that diet called that's very bland? It's like,
That banana brat, the
yeah, the
brat
brat
diet.
diet. He said, just do the brat diet. It's just your belly acting up. Everything's going to level out. Oh, and you probably need to see a psychiatrist because you're clearly having panic attacks. Again, with the effing panic attacks.
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't remember taking you to that. Well, it was probably a virtual appointment. There were a lot of virtual appointments during that time because it was still COVID.
You took me because I saw Chris.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Chris is like, let me go talk to the doctor. And then he came back, and I didn't see the actual doctor. It was Chris the
It was a
first time. And then
physician's
we went
assistant that
back
we
a
really liked.
second time and said, I'm trying to do that now. I can't eat that stuff. What do we do? And the doctor then came in that time and said, just stick with it. It's going to sort itself out. Just stick with it and go see a psychiatrist. Okay.
Yeah. So obviously it was a dead end overall. I mean, all of this eventually leads us to some answers, but it was felt like a dead end at that point. And I wanted to go back to you, Denise, um, because you had kind of talked about this a little bit about the helpless feeling you had as one of Carla's best friends and not knowing what to do. So while you're back home, still trying to work, you might have been going to school at the time, if I remember. I think you were in classes.
I think I was in school.
Yeah. So I'm working, you're studying, Carla's whatever's going on with her, we have no idea. Life continues to go on. I'm
Yeah.
curious, during all of that, as you're trying to juggle these different parts of life, what was going through your mind about this situation and Carla? I mean, I know you felt helpless. I know I did.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, as scary as that was, I did not know what was going to be the outturn, because when I was there, it was literally, I was making sure she was breathing
Hmm.
because that's all I could do. She couldn't really get up. She couldn't really do anything. The eating, the drinking made things worse. I just made sure that she had meds. I tried to keep her on a schedule with some medication and just make sure that she was alive
Yeah.
because it was just getting to the point we were dead ending on everything. Nothing was giving any result to anything. And it was just, you know that she can't continue like this.
Right. And one of the many hard things, but through all this was, when somebody's not feeling well, you want to give them encouragement. And usually in a typical situation, it's like, oh, I've had the flu before. I know exactly what it's like. It sucks, but you're going to be fine. Or I've had to do colonoscopy prep before. It sucks, but it's needed. And
Yeah,
this, we're like, I got nothing. I can't tell
I
you
know.
it's going to be okay because we didn't know. Carla, question for you about Denise. What does it mean for you to have somebody like her who lived right around the corner from you at the time, who was so reliable and was like your guardian for that period of time?
Truthfully, the both of you actually, because you all took turn. Denise had to study, go take tests, like, get some sleep because she really was watching me breathe. You would doze off occasionally. She did not. Um,
Noted.
and for the both of you, I really think I would have ran out into traffic. And I know we'll get more detailed into all the actual doctors I visited and how those visits went and what all that was. But when we got a few visits behind us, and after we had seen the immunology team and they had no answers, if it hadn't been for you guys, I really was at the point in my life where if nobody had a solution, I wasn't going to live like that. I was going to end it. I was going to end it. And if you guys hadn't have been around on the daily, that thought might have came a lot earlier for me. If I didn't have the support that I had, and then when it did come, I'm like, I can't live like this. I will have to end it. Like, something's got to be done. And I remember calling you, Stephen, and I was like, these doctors, they're going to mess around and let me die.
I remember that phone call very clearly.
Yeah.
Before.
That support is truly the only thing that got me through it, and my strong mindset. And once I knew what was wrong, then my positivity came back. And then that really helped me heal at a very rapid rate. But, those beginning stages, it was dark. It was very dark.
Well, I want to ask you, Carla, to, because I was just telling Denise, we didn't know what to say to you because we had never had this. We had had the flu before. We've had this or that before. You have had this. You have gone through GBS, not knowing what it was, knowing that your body is doing all these weird things. So you have that experience now. What would you say to somebody who may not be GBS, but who is going through something that they can't identify, that they know is something wrong? As somebody who's been in that exact spot, what do you say?
I would say really try to tap into your own intuition, because later, as body parts started going numb, I knew exactly what was wrong. And I told the doctor 3 times and couldn't get a spinal tap. So I've learned through this process that we really do have some body intuition in things. And now we have AI and all these things, like, put all that in. It is mega data out in the world. It's mind boggling how much data is out there. And put your stuff in and see what it's saying. And then if a doctor's not listening, immediately switch to a doctor that is. Listen, if they don't have time for you, they can't listen to what you're saying, they totally disregard what you have to say. If you're not there all the time and you're not a hypochondriac, a doctor needs to be listening to you, especially somebody like me. I don't go to doctors. When I do go, I don't complain. I'm all sunshine and rainbows. Like, if I tell you something is serious, it's serious. And if you're not going to listen to your patients, get out of the field. Period. So, and in my opinion, female doctors seem to be the way to go. They seem to have more empathy. They seem to be more targeted in their approach. They seem to pay more attention. I don't know if it's a XYZ chromosome thing, but my experience was the females are the ones that came through for me. So shout out to female doctors. I'm just putting that out there. So
I want to add, I know that I've made light and we've laughed and giggled about this. I was scared to death. I didn't know what to do. Yes, it's funny now thinking that I asked for a real doctor and I cussed the doctor or the PA out. But at the time,
and ran 4 stop signs and a red light.
Probably. And I parked in the middle of the street. I can make light of this now, but at the time, there was no laughing matter. I mean, I was in survival mode trying to get answers for you. I mean, that's all I knew what to do. And someone had to be your advocate because you couldn't do it for yourself. You just couldn't. You were too tired.
It's all I could do to hold myself together. And, my mode of operating is always go funny. Even if, as my aunt was dying, I made a joke with the family all in the room and they're like pointing at me because that's what I do, right? I lighten when stuff gets heavy. I bring the sunshine. and I
Yeah.
didn't have any sunshine to give. I mean, I was so depleted, and in so much pain and discomfort and disbelief, and I just I couldn't pull it out without the people there holding me up. That's why I advocate everybody get a tribe. You never know when you're going to need it or what for. And even when nothing's going wrong, your tribe just makes it better. I mean, we all just went to a Mexican restaurant, and the food's just better when we're all together,
It is.
It's so important to have your tribe. And probably with the state of the world, there's no better time than now to make sure you have your tribe.
That's
Find
very
them,
true.
bond, connect.
I remember it was early morning. I was driving from my house to your house, Carla. And Denise, you had been staying with her over the night. I don't know where this was in the grand scheme of things, fairly early, I think. And I remember showing up. It was still dark. I think I ran by McDonald's and you're like, bring me a McMuffin or whatever. I brought you some kind of food. I don't remember what it
It would have been a
was.
McMuffin. So
Probably
that was correct.
McMuffin. I had my coffee and I walked in. I just remember walking into that front door because I think I had a key to it or it was unlocked, whatever.
Hmm.
And like the look, Denise, you're a lovely woman, but you looked horrible. And you were like ashen white. And I just remember hugging you and you were like, I've never felt you that way before. Like you were just exhausted. I could tell you were scared. I could tell you were sad. I don't think you cried on me, but like I think you were like almost there.
I was probably very, very close. I'm not a crier.
Right.
So I don't really cry. That doesn't mean that I don't have emotions. But one thing about me, I'm more of an empath. So I could pick up on what Carla was feeling. I was taking a lot of that in. I knew the desperation that she had, and I was physically and mentally drained. I just didn't have anything in me.
Right. And I remember that very well. And I remember thinking, she's one, you've been up forever, checking in, you haven't been home. I can't remember if you had your dog with you or not at the time. You
I'm
probably
sure
did.
I did.
You have Presley with you everywhere, but I don't remember the dog, which is weird because I'm a dog person, but I remember
Yeah.
focusing on you and like, holy cow, poor Denise. And then, like I said, after you and I said goodbye, I went in and checked on Carla, and I think I got like a grunt, like she's alive. I'm gonna go watch TV,
Yeah.
kind of a thing. And then that's kind of how we lived our life for a while. Um, as we start wrapping up this conversation, Denise, another question for you. Um, you work in the medical field as
Yes.
a respiratory therapist. Um, you were an advocate for Carla. You've been advocates for other people. What what would you say to somebody who was in your mind situation, who has a friend who is going through something, whether it is physical, mental, medical, whatever, and just can't seem to find that grasp of hope, which is kind of where Carla was. What is your thought or advice, if you have any?
The one thing I can say is try to do what I did, maybe do it a little more polished than what I did. Go in and be an advocate. If you're not getting answers from the doctor, ask to see someone else. If you're in the emergency room, you can ask for a different doctor. There's usually more than one. There's usually PAs in there, and then there'll be at least one medical doctor. Ask for someone else if you're not getting the answers that you want. Someone has to be an advocate for a friend who is in need. If they're unable to do it for themselves, take it on yourself and try to get them the help that they need. Try to get the answers. That would be my advice.
I think that's very good advice. And I think mine would be piggybacking. I keep using the word piggyback. I got to fix that. Following up on that, um, is to listen.
Yeah.
As Carla said, she would talk to these doctors and she was talking, but nobody was hearing. So I think it goes beyond listening, it goes into hearing. And again, these are things we'll talk about later. There are times where Carla and I had some major arguments during this whole thing, like big arguments, but it usually came down to not listening to each other and not hearing each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key in every friendship for it to be successful is to be able to have that because Carla, I know we're talking about you, Carla, like you're not right here, you are right here, but you are the one that always listens to everybody else and always hears everybody else because of what you do. Like you said, you do the life coach, you help people through their own crises. So having that switched on you, I know was hard for you. Of course, I didn't mind hearing and listening for you. So as we kind of wrap up, Carla, I would like to get your take on the importance of having your fears heard by those who are close to you and what that means for you on that side.
Like I said earlier, it's the thing that kept me propped up. You know, you guys were like a crutch under each arm. You know, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically at times to keep me propped up. To take one more step, to go to one more doctor, to figure one more piece of the puzzle out, to try to see what in the world was happening to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't want to end on a bummer note because we did have success here. This was really hard for all of us. I know to remember this, to go back to it, to kind of relive it. Um, so I want to ask one final question of each of you, and I'm going to ask it once, and you can figure out who can answer it. And Denise, this is kind of what you said earlier that you can look back now and laugh on some of these situations, and it was very funny now the way you handled the doctor, the way you parked, the way you drove.
Yeah.
So, what stands out as kind of one of those shining moments of hope during all of this, if one does for you, that you think back on those early days and be like, you know what, I think we can figure this out. We don't have answers, but I can grab onto this one thing. And I'm happy to go first if that would be easier for the two of you, because I know it's a hard question. So for me, my thing of hope was when we started figuring out who was going to do what. And Carla, you and I talked about this briefly, but suddenly it was not just me and Denise. We had other friends saying, "Oh, I'm going to work on this, or I can handle this, and I got her job stuff, and I'm going to make sure her bills are paid." You know, that's when I was just like, "Okay, we are a small but mighty group, and I think that we can pull this off." And it started making me feel a little bit better. Our mutual friend Tim, well, hopefully we'll be able to bring on this at some point to talk about. I know he came in and helped out a lot. I think as I saw, we were kind of like when I was a kid, I loved like these cartoon shows where you had these group of friends, and when they all had their individual powers, and when they came together, they made like a big robot. They made like a big thing. That's kind of how I saw us kind of coming together to help the lesbian in crisis. That's kind of my take on it. So that's when I was like, oh, you know what? I think we're going to be able to navigate this and figure it out.
I
And
think
was that um as I was getting ready to come home from the hospital? When did that happen for you along the journey?
For me, I think it was um, you hadn't moved in with me yet. This was prior to that, as people were coming to your house to assist. I think that's when it came. I mean, I got a lot more hope later when we had some answers and things started flowing better. But that's, I think, when I saw my little glimpse of like, I think we can pull this off.
Interesting. That's good to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Denise, how
I
about you? Do you have
think
an answer for that?
I think the first time I started seeing, now it was taken back. I did see hope when I asked for a real doctor, and he came in and he started listening to Carla and he started ordering the test. He started, it was like someone's finally hearing what she's saying.
Yeah.
I know it was a dead end. The test did not show anything. And it was heartbreaking coming home and the medication's not working. But that was a glimmer of hope that someone was listening for the first time.
Yeah. Powerful. And
For
Carla, any
me,
thoughts?
I don't think hope hit me until I knew I was going to move in with you. When I called and said, "Listen, I think I'm out of choices. I gotta make a move.
Right.
You know, can I move in over there?" You're like, "Absolutely. When you want to do it, I like as soon as possible." Because by that point, I was literally so weak, I couldn't hardly make it from the recliner to the bed. And again, this is back to your own personal intuition. I had an overwhelming intuition that I was really at risk for having a terrible fall in my tiled floored house and I would bleed out there by myself. I just knew that I immediately, and there was, because I was terrified, absolutely terrified.
Yeah. And you have to be terrified to want to move back in with me. Because,
So that move gave me big relief.
yeah. And I think I knew early on that there was a strong possibility that we would be roommates again. And that was what, our third or fourth time. Um,
12 or something.
well, Denise, thank you so much, not only for talking to us today, but for everything that you've done for Carla and for me over our friendship. And I'm happy that you are such a good friend, and that's going to continue for years and years moving forward. Any last thoughts from you, Denise? And if you don't have any, that's fine too. But anything you want to say or mention that we didn't talk about during our 45-minute conversation?
Um, I think one thing we talked about so much, and I think everything was really good what we talked about, but I don't think we talked about the love between the three of us and stuff like that because I have great respect and love for the two of y'all. Y'all are like some of my top people, you know, and I just want y'all to know how much I appreciate the two of you.
Ditto. Right back at you, gal. Right back.
No, dry your tears. I can't stand crying.
I know you
No.
usually laugh. Why aren't you laughing at my tears? Usually you laugh when I cry. Got something
I've been holding it back.
when you cry.
I've been holding back my laughter because I didn't want people to
Sorry.
think I was such an ass.
I'm a Cancer. We know I'm a crybaby, and I apologize to the audience in the very first episode. I'm like, there's going to be tears. I cry when I'm happy, sad, angry. It's my go-to emotion. So,
Especially when she's angry, and we'll talk about that later. But yeah,
but it does. Talking about this puts me right back in it, boy. Whew.
Yeah.
it was
Really.
dark, and strength in numbers. And Denise, we feel the same way. I feel the same way. I mean, Carla and I have known each other forever. We've known you forever now. We like have our little family. We're spread across the world at the
Yeah.
moment, but we're
We're
always going
in
to stay in
three time
touch.
zones right now.
We're in three time
Yeah, we
zones
really
right,
are.
We're in three
making
time
this
zones.
work. I'm about ready to go make dinner. You guys are like lunchtime, so it's crazy. But we really do appreciate you taking time to share your thoughts about this, Denise. And I'm sure we would love to have you back on a future conversation to talk about this because this is a long story and there's a lot more to cover. And you were there through every single step of it. This was just the beginning.
Yeah, I would love to be back if y'all would have me.
Absolutely. Carla, any final thoughts from you before we say goodbye?
We love you long time. You guys are the best.
Anything you want to say we don't know? No, I'm kidding. On that note, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. There's a lot more to this story. Remember, if you know somebody who's going through any kind of situation that they just don't understand, just be an ear, be there to help, be there to listen. That's what this is all about. That's why Carla wanted to do these conversations to put some more good out in the world and let people know that there is hope. And we appreciate you watching. Please like and subscribe to this podcast. Help us get the word out there so let everybody know that we are here. And feel free to comment and chat in the space below the videos and on the podcast page or wherever this thing lands, and we will do our best to respond as well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a wonderful day. And to both of you, love your hair. Hope you win.
Love ya.
I love Vista, baby.
Bye.